Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Richest Men in Town podcast. I'm Mike Freeman, and along with my good friend and co-host Tyler Gould, we're excited to welcome you to our little podcast project. Tyler and I are just a couple of middle-aged husbands and dads driven to live our best lives. We want to be better every day, so here we'll be sitting down with great people. Not famous people, but great people that we admire, to learn their secret to living the rich life. Probably not the rich life you're thinking of. Our guests come in humbled and surprised at the invitation and hopefully leave feeling proud and grateful, realizing just how good they really have it. So pull up a chair, stay a while, and raise a glass with us as we toast our guests to the richest men in town.
Mike Freeman. Have you ever
Tyler
heard...
Gould? Happy New Year, Tyler Gould.
Happy New Year to you. Have you ever heard someone say something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue? You know that whole wedding thing? Yeah, right? I feel like tonight, man, we had it was fun. First of all, a fun night on Richest Men in Town, but I really feel like we got something old, something new, something borrowed, and something blue from our guest, Dan Boone, tonight.
Oh man, Dan is a party. And I think everybody right now listening to that knows Dan just nodded their head.
Absolutely.
Right? Just nodded their head.
And I think if you don't know Dan Boone, you're going to walk away today saying, I need to know either Dan Boone or someone really similar to Dan Boone.
Well, and that's the that's part of the underlying message of Richest Men in Town is these guys are around.
Yeah.
Right? As you live your life and looking like, who do I want to be like? I just ask yourself that. Who do I want to be like? Whoever comes to your mind, jump on our social media platforms, drop their name.
Absolutely.
The world is a small place. We will hunt them down and spend 2 hours with them uncovering their secrets. Dan shares from the heart tonight. From the heart, he takes us back to a childhood that's kind of in that non-example.
Yeah.
Right. And we know the power of that. And he shifts that into a life, a fruitful life, pits and all, right? Pits and all, man. You got it. We learned from tonight from Dan that we have to plant our pits. Got to plant the pits.
Plant the pits, man.
You got a bowl of cherries. You're sitting on some pits. Those pits put in fertile ground. They make some amazing things happen.
Yeah, but if you don't harvest right, they make a mess as well. We learned that also. I mean, there's all kinds of nuggets that we get into tonight. So, I mean, but in all honesty, Mike, I think I said this in the podcast to you and Dan, but talking to Dan was good for my soul tonight because that's a guy who exudes positive energy, who's been through some stuff. He tells about some personal experiences in his life that have had instilled the feeling anyway that he's here for a reason. And I can tell you, man, just having that conversation, I'm like, that was worth every second. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I see it. And I think it's reasons.
Yeah.
Right. I think when you have people rallying around and supporting Dan, I think it's just all of the good that Dan has done coming back to him.
Yeah.
And he's candid about that journey, and he's candid about what it means to him and how he's never going to be able to necessarily repay, and just trying to live a life of remembrance and feeling grateful for each and every day. Every day is an extra day.
Yeah. And look, when you're talking to someone who has 13 kids and has been married
13,
and he can name them all.
Them.
He names them all. And he's been.
Can you imagine being the kid that he
didn't?
Can you imagine being the kid he doesn't name?
He was like, it's happened forever. You know what I mean? Can you imagine, like, when I call my kids to dinner, I name off every one of them over and over again. Like, I can't remember. If I had 13, it'd be a complete train wreck. But 13 years, 13 kids, 46 years, you got to learn something from him, right?
So he's got 13 kids, and I love the perspective because he's talking to us, and we're a little further down the trail with a few less Freemanites and Gouldites, but his advice, one day at a time.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, like I'm not going to try to match Dan's number of Booneites, but I'm happy with my the number I've got.
Yeah,
but,
I'll take.
Man,
yeah.
If I could, he talks about creating relationships and maintaining relationships. There are some powerful things in there. I loved every minute of it tonight, Mike.
Yeah, he's got friends that he's had since 7th grade.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Who who does that? I mean, I think that if I could serve like Dan, right? If I could golf like Dan,
yeah.
if I could follow the lessons and apply some things that he drops for our listeners tonight, I think I'll be a better person. That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about. So I'm hoping that our listeners enjoy their time with Dan Boone. There's plenty to learn. There's plenty to laugh about, and there's plenty to enjoy with Dan Boone on tonight's episode of The Richest Men in Town. Oh, man.
Well, hey, here we are. I don't know if you're ready, but I want you to hit me with that Mark Twain resolution quote business, because here we are, January 5th, right?
Yeah.
January 5th. I went to the Y today, and I'm thinking it's January 5th, right?
Yeah.
People are on the saddle, like, here we go. And the place is going to be slam busy. No one.
It was dead.
By the 5th. Right? By the 5th, they're done.
Well, all right. So I'm going to paraphrase, and you're going to do your beautiful work on the backside and get this thing dialed in.
Oh, I got it. I got it right here.
Okay. So now go ahead, throw it out there.
Mark Twain, New Year's Day. Now is the accepted time to make your regular annual good resolutions. Next week, you can begin paving hell with them as usual.
It's such a great quote. It's a great quote.
It's a good quote. Mark Twain, not a big fan of New Year's resolutions.
Not a big fan of the resolutions. And, I mean, we talked about this in our last episode. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the idea of that once a year, sort of the frantic writing down of how do I become better after 46 years of neglect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
but if you're in that point and you're committed to that, I applaud you. And I think that's awesome. But I guess
let me just tell you, today the routine felt pretty amazing. Like the morning routine, like I think I dialed it down. I think I got some fine tuning done. Went smooth, man.
And to your credit, you've been at it for a little while now.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Richest Men in Town. I mean, how many times are we talking to people about their morning routine, right? Like, you got to win the day.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's good.
I got these chairs out in front of my house.
Yeah,
I don't know if you have these things in your life, Tyler, that are 100% for looks.
Yeah,
I got two red Adirondack chairs in the front of my house. Everybody that drives by probably thinks, "Oh, how cute. Husband and wife sit in those chairs every day, and talk about things." No, those chairs sit there and nobody sits in them. So I've decided in the morning, those are my chair. That's my chair, man. I'm going to sit out on my front porch in my Adirondack chair that no one ever sits in.
Okay.
And that's going to be my pondering chair.
Now, what time do you start this process?
Oh, dude, it's a 6 o'clocker in the morning. I've already been to the Y. I'm back. And now I'm hydrating and I'm pondering.
Because I'm thinking at 6 o'clock in the morning in Redding, California. Now, listen, it's 6 o'clock in the morning is when I head out the door for the day, start my day. It has been in the 40s here, which is crazy cold. All right.
A little brisk. It was a little brisk.
Yeah. So I can only imagine what it looks like in Redding.
Right. So listeners, if you can picture me chubby, sitting sweaty, starting to frost over in my red Adirondack chair, that's what's going to be happening.
Well, I like it, man. I think that
the sun, the sun's not even close to coming up yet. But as the year goes along, that sitting is going to, maybe birds will start chirping, right?
Yeah. I mean, at some point it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. The sun will be hitting you. You'll be toasty warm.
Then I'll be the lizard sunning, right? I'll be sunning myself. I'm just done. The chairs have either got to go or someone's got to start using them.
We have a couple of those chairs on our front porch as well that no one sits in.
What is this all about?
I don't know, but I had this thought the other day. I was driving through a neighborhood and I passed a house. I had the garage door was open, and in the center of the garage towards the front was an elderly man sitting in a chair with a drink in one hand, his legs crossed, just watching the cars drive by. And I thought, there you go. Maybe that's what that chair is for. At some point, Mike Freeman, this will become an important part of your life. Well, you will just sit and watch people.
And I've already discovered the magic of the Adirondack chair. You know, anytime I've ever been in any kind of guided meditation, it's always like, all right, sit comfortably, feel the back of your chair, right? And like, man, you sit in an Adirondack chair, you're bound to be comfortable real quick.
That's true. They are.
I'm sipping on my mason jar, giving thanks to my Heavenly Father for a day. Let's go get it. You know?
It's good stuff. It's good stuff, man.
And pretty soon, in a couple months, the birds are going to be chirping. I'm gonna be loving it. Right now, I need a beanie. I might need a beanie.
Yeah,
maybe a cup of hot cocoa. Maybe a cup of hot cocoa.
Well, I think a beanie and a thermos of hot cocoa. I can't get the vision.
This episode is going to be brought to you by the thermos.
The thermos.
You thought it was gone. It's back.
No, and I think more people should be using a thermos. I'm not sure why, but I think it needs to
be. For the lid alone, dude.
The lid that is a cup?
Lid that is a cup.
that's really, that's legitimate. Right.
I'm only thinking, man, if you got a thermal, you best have a flannel on or you're going to be in trouble.
So look, I guess if you commit to the thermos and a beanie, there's an entire outfit that has to be arranged with this.
Oh, yeah. Instant credibility with the flannel if you're rocking a thermos. You know,
and maybe there's an axe leaning up against the chair somewhere.
I don't think you want me being seen with an axe.
I got to tell you, man.
Have you ever cut down a tree with an axe? That might be on the man's list.
I have. No, not a large tree, but a small tree. Yes. Yeah.
All right. Fall a tree. A man should be able to fall a tree with an axe.
Maybe. I mean, I can see that. There's some fire. I think it's more useful than being able to ride a horse. I maybe there's firewood involved. You know,
this is what we're going to do in 2022. When our guests come on, we're going to hit them upside the head with that question.
What should a man be able to do?
Give me a thing right now. Every man should be able to do
one thing a man should be able to do.
Go.
I like it, man.
So speaking of that, have we got a man for tonight's episode?
We do.
Right? We got the one and the only Dan Boone from Red Bluff, California.
Right.
Shout out to Red Bluff, California, my alma mater, my hometown.
Yes.
We're going back to my hometown, brother.
We're going back, man. And not to be confused with Daniel Boone. This is Dan Boone, who is an original himself. I mean, this guy is a true original. And,
Dan Boone wasn't like the raccoon hat guy, right?
I was Davy Crockett.
Okay.
Dan Boone was the knife guy, right?
I bet you if you bring up, it's Bowie.
Oh, that's Bowie.
David Bowie?
No. I got Sam? My friend. I don't know. I got my frontier history is all merging together now. Okay. I don't know, man.
Well, let's just beat you to the show notes. The guy that's famous for the knife is not David Bowie. Oh. I believe it might be Sam Bowie.
Yeah, that would be ground control to Major Tom. It would be David Bowie. Right?
Which brings us back to guitars.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
I wonder, we're probably not going to play the Daniel Boone joke tonight because I'm sure that'll bring up some childhood trauma because he's probably been hit with that a few times.
Yeah, well, and I agree. So we'll leave that one just for you and I, our own personal enjoyment. But I came across this quote, Mike, and I want to run this by you real quick before we let Dan in here. I want to get your take on this. I've been thinking about crossroads and what that looks like and you know, how do we how do we look at those decisions when we come to them? And here's a quote, and you're going to have to do your magic on this and figure out who said this, but it says, adversity is a crossroads that makes a person choose one of two paths, character or compromise.
Ooh.
So I'm curious, and as I thought about that, adversity is a crossroads that makes a person choose one of two paths, character or compromise.
Well, I'm dying to know where you're thinking, but a couple things come to my mind immediately, right?
Yeah.
I'm assuming that the refiner's fire is hot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming that process, right? The natural man recoils from that heat and compromises himself, right?
Yeah.
Where if you step in and you step through that, you're gonna start burning off the dross.
You're forging character by walking through that.
You're gonna be forging some character. You know, and I think of that book excerpt a while back. I'd have to find it, but the thought is, eventually, someday, you're going to get to a point in your professional career, speaking personally as well, where you can do something or you can be somebody. Right? And the be somebody is the parking space, the title, right? The corner office. And the do something is the right commitment to a cause greater than yourself.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are two thoughts that they come to my mind. You know, I love that thought of crossroads and coming into these things, because if you think about it, all of those are tiny little junctions on your railroad track, so to speak. Right? You make one little choice, and all of a sudden, boom, you're putting maybe on a different trajectory, and it's not necessarily a place, the end line of that may not be a destination you're too excited about.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I was, it made me think, I guess when I read that quote, what stood out to me was the word compromise, and I guess I felt like, the question that came into my mind is, when adversity comes at us, are we all in, sticking to those things that we believe, or do we compromise our values or compromise our character to move forward, right? And it really, Mike, it made me think about Carlos and his thought about tiny hinges and this idea of good, better, best when it comes to those decisions.
Well, and I think that a true test, one of the challenges in life, and I'd be curious to know what the town thinks about this, right? When is compromise okay?
Mm-hmm.
And when is compromise sacrificing something, right? When is compromise whittling away at that character? Like, we agree, I think we agree that compromise isn't necessarily something to be, eliminated from our lives. I mean,
it's
show me
hugely
a happy
important.
married person, right?
Yeah.
Show me a happy, successful marriage, and I'm going to show you some compromise.
Yeah.
Or maybe she just gets her way. I'm not sure, but but I think that it would be interesting to know, when in life am I in a situation where I need to compromise here. I need to work with other folks, and when is it like the best or nothing?
I mean, is it? Yeah. I agree. I like that thought. I mean, I was just having a conversation with my kids the other day about the importance of compromise, right? So obviously there's a space for that. I guess maybe my thought is, as you're saying that if it impacts our moral foundation or our moral structure, and we're going to compromise those things, maybe that's not the best spot to be making those choices.
Right. And you think about It's a Wonderful Life, when George Bailey reaches his hand across and shakes Potter's hand.
Yeah.
He knows.
Yeah.
Instantly, that is not a time for compromise.
Yeah. Right.
We don't compromise with alligators, right? Like, the idea is, like, there's forces out there that can destroy us. And if we yield to those things and not stand and hold our ground, all of a sudden we're in a spot, and I think that I have this gift, Tyler. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but when it comes to food poisoning,
okay, I like this.
In my mind, I run back what I've eaten.
Yeah.
And the second I hit the thing, body responds. So let's apply this to life.
Yeah.
In the event that we find ourselves on a train track heading to a destination, we're wondering why life is so lackluster now and where did it go? I bet we can all replay our mind and find those moments where we compromise where we shouldn't have.
Oh, for sure. And it's interesting because, again, I'm going to reference Carlos Dios and Bella, his episode. You know, he shared a story where he had just helped rescue someone, right, off of the cliffs of this island and
living his dream.
And they got him in the helicopter. They flew him up. They landed. They put him into an ambulance. And as he was sitting there looking at the scene of all this that had happened, he said, "Wasn't worth it." Right. And I think
so when I hear that,
yeah,
it's not the prize, it's what it cost him.
Absolutely right. I agree.
Right?
I agree.
Yeah, it's not like, wow, I thought what he did was amazing.
What he did was amazing. It was great for everybody. Right.
But when you look at what he has given up to be in that moment, that's where you put it on the scales and it's like, wait a minute, I got to make an adjustment.
Yeah. And I think, and the quote specifically brings up the point of adversity, right? And I think adversity is what puts us in that really puts us in that, you know, you talk about the refiner's fire, but it puts us in that kind of hot spot where we have to make choices. And sometimes we have to make choices quickly, right? When we're in that spot with adversity. And I think that's where we're faced with this idea. Do I take the easy way and maybe the compromise, or do I stick to what I know is going to get me where I want to be, even though it may provide some difficulty in this situation?
For a season.
Yeah.
Right. And who knows, we get into that, right? We get into some of the lessons learned from the prophet Joseph Smith in his life, and you know, and many others. If we can look at things from an eternal perspective, at least a long run perspective, you know, a season of discomfort, while keeping and forging character, is going to be worth a fleeting moment of compromise, probably.
I agree. And I think, you know, this is a conversation I have with my kids all the time too. And it's a lesson learned from my good friend, Bob Carlson, which is, you know, I tell my kids all the time when they're in a tough spot, I'm like, you could do anything for 2 months. You can do anything for 30 days. You can do anything for a year, right? You're okay. You gotta forge through that.
Well, and I think too, the lesson when it comes to character scales up.
Yeah.
Right. Like if we're developing character, we could be working, you know, we could be an entry level somewhere. Someone's going to look at the character and be like, I can't teach that.
Yeah.
Right. Character is going to scale up to other lanes on the highway, to other aspects of life. Whereas, you know, losing character is going to, it's probably going to punch some holes in her bucket for sure.
I like that thought. Scaling up. Yeah.
No, I like that. We will effort to come up with the source for that quote.
All right. Well,
good thoughts.
Let's get Dan Boone in here. Let's let him weigh in on some of life's biggest challenges and fill us in. Let him share his knowledge and wisdom.
You know, that's always a dangerous thing when you preface the entry of our guests by saying things like, let him grace us with his wisdom.
Yeah, well, you know, we'll edit that out if it disappoints.
Mr. Dan Boone, welcome to the richest men in town. How are you?
How am I doing, man? If I was doing any better, there'd be 2 of me.
You know what? And the world would be pretty amazing with 2 Dan Boone.
Yeah, that's right.
No. That'd be. I don't think my wife is ready for that, man.
Well, Dan, welcome to the richest men in town. And we're excited. We cannot wait to have a couple hours, sit down and talk a little bit and figure out what goes into the making of one Dan Boone. So Tyler and I told Tyler, we're going back to my hometown tonight, brother. Right. So
yeah, we are man. Yeah. Old school, baby.
Yeah. We are heading back to my roots of Red Bluff, California to connect with you. This is a cool opportunity. We're 80 something episodes in, and sometimes it's my friend, sometimes it's Tyler's friend. In this case, it's a mutual friend. So we both know you. We both love
ties
you.
with both of you.
Yeah. And we appreciate you. We appreciate you accepting the invitation. This is something kind of old hat for us. But, when we reach out and we say, hey, we got a podcast, what do you think? You were all in, man. All in. We appreciate that.
We're all in. I hope you don't get, doesn't take a dive after, you guys spending the time with me. No promises, guys.
Well, in all humility, Dan, in order to take a dive, we would have to be someplace pretty high.
Yeah. So we can go nowhere but up, Dan.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then we're in good shape, man.
Our starting point is pretty modest, so we appreciate it.
Good.
All right, we're gonna start a new tradition. You're the guinea pig. Are you ready?
Sure. Why not, man?
All right. So it is the richest men in town, and we are open to having conversations with great men and women all over the place. Because you got like 13 kids, correct?
13 kids. Yeah.
All right.
All mine and my wife's. No twins.
Can you name them?
Sure.
Let's go.
All right. Tanya, Patrice, Chris, Sarah, Marcus, Matt, Jeff, Brittany, Aubrey, Stevie, Tyler, Jay, Megan.
Man.
Did anybody count?
Congratulations.
Yeah, I counted. That was good.
Congratulations, Dan Boone, on that. And that in and of itself has got to be volumes of lessons about life, right?
And a $1 million question we get all the time. There's two of them. I get all the time. Well, I get two of them. Kayleen gets one of these two. Kayleen's my wife. One is you must be Mormon or Catholic. And that's the one Kayleen and I both get.
Absolutely.
And then the other one is they ask me, don't you know what causes it?
So
yeah.
Are they all out of school?
Yeah. Megan's 22. She just got home a year ago, August, served a mission in North Carolina, Charlotte. She was out during the height of the COVID. She went out and COVID hit, and so she was able to stay out. Our stake president, who at the time was Sam Webb. I don't know if you knew him, Mike, or not. He's our stake president that passed away of cancer, 3 years ago, maybe. Anyhow, he spoke with the mission president, talked him into leaving Megan out there and stuff. So she was able to finish out and not come home and then go back out.
That's great.
So she's the baby. And she's in school. She's out in Utah. Just got her residency and stuff there. So that'll save some money.
That's awesome.
So she's there. And then I've got a couple kids that are still doing continuing education. I got a daughter that's working on her master's, another one that just got her master's. I've got three kids that have two kids that are UC Davis grads. I don't mean to bust anybody's bubble here, but I'm a big Boise State fan, not BYU. I got a son and daughter-in-law that graduated there. So
awesome.
yeah, so we've got them all over. So I've got a couple in the military, one in the Marines, one in the Army.
Wow.
Recently, we kicked off our last episode last week doing a shout out to a listener who was celebrating the birth of his first child.
I heard that.
Yeah, if you were hanging out with him at the local burger shop, what advice would you give him?
Realistically,
let's be real.
One day at a time.
Yeah.
And just because today goes to in a handbasket, if you will, doesn't mean tomorrow's going to be that.
Yeah.
And I think that's in life as general. I try and, but I think people go, how'd you handle it and stuff? Well, I handled it easy. I was at work 8 hours, 9 hours a day, man.
Right. Yeah.
8, 9, sometimes 12. Hey, boss,
yeah.
You need me to stay longer.
Yeah. Playing golf, yeah. But, the big change for my wife was the first one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the second was for me, I think the second one was the bigger adjustment. my first one, I was 21 years old, lived in Chico. We lived in Chico. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Chico Peppers. They're women's fast pitch team down there. Open bracket. They were the team.
Okay.
Of Northern California in the women's side of the house. And so my daughter was born May 28th, and it was probably June 8th that I took her and a buddy of mine, and we went out to Hooker Oak Park and watched a Chico Peppers doubleheader. No diaper bag, no bottles, no nothing. Just me, week and a half old baby.
We got this.
Got home, my wife was living.
I was gonna say maybe that's not the best advice for this new dad.
No,
Yeah.
not at all, not at all. But as I say, that too passed. But I still hear about it. I still hear about it 46 years later.
Well, we only learn
learn
through pain, right?
Dan, now you've had 13 kids, so I imagine the house was full of activity, right? There was always something going on.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it sounds like now it's you and your wife. And that is anybody else at home?
We got one older son that lives here.
Okay.
But he pretty much takes care of himself. His big vice now is RC cars.
Okay.
My dining room, my kitchen dining room table, you can't even eat a hot dog on it. I have a 3-car garage and a 2-car garage. The 3-car garage he owns because it's got all his tools and RC cars. You can't put a motorcycle in there if you wanted to. I have to climb over his RC cars to get to my golf clubs. So yeah, it's but yeah, we're empty nesters.
How's that transition been?
It's you see people as you go and you're getting older. Your parents are all that way or whatever, and you see them going, and some of the adjustments are okay. Some of the adjustments are a little tougher. A little backup or a little history on me. I'm the oldest of 4 boys. My parents got divorced. I was born in LA, actually in Covina, just up the road from you.
Yeah.
And my parents got divorced when I was 6 years old. My baby brother was 6 months old. And then there's one of those tragic, and this was back in May of 62 is when we're talking. And one of those things that, my dad cheated on my mom. My dad was an alcoholic, and that's a whole nother story. Okay. But so that all happened, and it's interesting how you see, and you guys all know who Jim Croce is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Singer, writer.
Yeah.
All-time great song, Cat in the Cradle.
Oh yeah. You want to make a dad cry. There you go.
I heard that song when it came out, and like the song says, that ain't going to be me.
Yeah.
But to a degree it is. It's tough getting those relationships and developing them and keeping them. Your kids go their own directions. And it's tough to go, and you can't force a relationship on them. And it's hard to, you think you're doing it right, so to speak. And then you kind of find out that maybe we should have put a few more right turns or left turns in this thing instead of plowing through it, so to speak. So it's but I have good relationships with all my kids.
Yeah.
But I could see that I could have done some things on my part to strengthen, and that's something I'm working on now.
Yeah.
Sort of kindle and do it, and I'm kind of the avenue I'm kind of using in a sense is the grandkids.
Yeah.
Part of it to bring that into the scenario. So I don't know if any of you guys got grandkids or not. You guys aren't old enough, are you?
Not yet.
It's coming like that train. It's coming like that train on the track, right?
Yeah,
You can't
that's right.
stop it.
Yeah. But I like that thought, Dan. I mean, I have a daughter that's 22. That's my oldest. She's
Okay.
she's at BYU and doing her thing, and I got a son on a mission, and I've got two at home, and I'm torn, because part of me is, obviously I'm celebrating the victories of my kids' lives, right?
Sure.
That they've got going on. I'm celebrating the relationship with my wife, and I'm looking forward to sort of that, maybe selfishly, some of that time that she and I can have together.
Yeah, and that definitely, because that's definitely a plus of being an empty nester if you want it to be.
Right. But at the same time, I do have maybe a little sadness and maybe a little fear of losing what the relationship that I had, or I've had, with my kids. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. As they kind of spread their wings and do their thing. And I've told Mike a million times, I'm like, man, if I had to write the book, this is how I would write it, but yet I'm in the middle of it, and I'm still a little bit like, gosh, I'm a little sad. I'm going to miss the closeness of our relationship.
They one of the things they say, and it's true to an extent, but not 100%, is when your daughter gets married, you gain a son-in-law. When your son gets married, you lose a son to the wife and her family. More times than not. I mean, and I've got that. That's one of the things with one of my sons, that her family lives here in town. They live in Chico, and they're up here all the time. And they literally go, well, a mile and a half from my house, and don't come in and drop by with the grandkids and say hello or anything.
Yeah.
We see it on Facebook or, Twitter or whatever else, that pictures are posted, whatever. And that's just something that, it's a tough pill for me to swallow.
Yeah. Okay. So I appreciate you sharing that, because I got to be honest with you, like, the pride in me. See, this is where I get myself in trouble, right? Because I'm a proud kind of guy. The pride in me is like, you don't want this relationship, but I think that, I guess my question to you, Dan, is what's the work that has to be done to try to pull them back in, or is there not work to be done there? And I'm asking this question.
There is. I think you gotta take what you can get when you get it, to start with. And then we try everything in our power to extend ourselves out to try and, draw them over or whatever. And so now it's more, per se, of us whenever we go down to Chico, that we'll go and drop by the house.
Yeah.
Okay. And 9 times out of 10, we drop by unannounced.
Yeah.
There's been, a few times, not that many, where it wasn't convenient for us to be there at the appropriate time via my daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
And she flat will tell you, well, it's not good, but okay, fine, we'll leave.
Yeah.
But we also go and tell them, hey, we're coming down, like tomorrow we got doctor's appointments down in Chico. And so it's, we got a daughter that lives up on the Skyway, just heading out of town. So we're going up to her place to see her. She's getting ready to have a baby. And then we'll go and talk to the other one, and tomorrow's Thursday. So he gets off early on Thursdays, and we'll see about going by there and just visiting and seeing the grandkids there as well. So
it's interesting how much work. I mean, we know this, right? All three of us, that relationships are work. But I think that for me, in where I'm at now, I guess relationships, we know that they're a lot of work, but when my kids were under my roof, I took that for granted because they were here. It was easy to do the work. We were just together. Right. And now I find myself with my daughter gone, and And coming home as a visitor now, I find myself really having to put in a lot more effort to maintain that same level of closeness, you know, and I don't know that it'll be the same, you know?
So she was home for Christmas, I'm going to assume.
Yeah. Yeah.
She went back to school already, right?
Yep.
So did it take some consoling to bring Mom back around when she went back to school after the holiday?
Yeah, I think that, you know, yeah, mom definitely enjoyed the time.
Okay. Did it take even more consoling for Dad when she left?
Yeah, it's interesting because she was here for 2 weeks, and that's the longest she's been home since before she left on her mission, you know?
Okay.
And I came home from work the day after she had left, and I told my wife, I miss walking in and seeing most of my kids here, and not seeing her here. So
yeah,
you know, but I think
Tyler, it's the things we tell ourselves, right? It's the things we tell ourselves. Like you said, you couldn't write the script any better. Like they're doing the things that you want them to be doing. Like, I've told myself as a parent, and I've been asked from time to time, what was your favorite age of kid? You know, and I say every season's amazing. Like, I mean, the other night I get to hug my kid, and he's like, thanks for coming to my game, Dad.
Yeah.
Well, he's a senior, right? That basketball, pretty soon,
it's going to be done.
I love him. He's not playing college ball, right? So like pretty soon that season will be over, and he'll never say that again. Yeah. You know, and then pretty soon it's going to be, we're at an airport and he's heading somewhere, right? I mean, but you tell yourself there is joy in the season. And it's funny, Dan, that you mentioned that cat's in the cradle, because as you're talking about your son and getting those visits in, and that idea of, you know, taking what you can get. I did that to my mom, right? When we got married, we had 2 Thanksgivings, we had 2 Christmases, we had all of these things to hit. Mm-hmm. And sometimes Mom would get the lion's share, and sometimes she would get the scraps.
Right.
You know, and pretty soon that's coming my way. Kind of that payback, right? Of like, hey, now you're about to have some firsthand experience so that you can empathize with what maybe you did what I did to my mom.
Yeah. And it's tough. It's, you know, I had the opportunity. I was pretty fortunate that my mom and my in-laws got along really great. And my father-in-law, whenever he'd see my mom, would go up and give her a big old hug and says, you know, it's just a matter of time before we get you, meaning to join the church. And my mom would say, Clifford, you're going to have to keep on working, buddy. And so, so it was just
I gotta back up here, because one thing, so you grew up with your childhood experience, mm-hmm. and those experiences are formative, good, bad, ugly. They're all formative, right? They're making impressions on young Dan Boone.
Oh yeah.
One thing is to hear the words of the song, and you're not going to be that way. But how is it that you are who you are, right? You are the husband, you are the father you are, when maybe you had that early example, and you know, and good, bad, or ugly, it was an example.
When I got married, I made a determination, and I made it before I even met my wife, that, and at that point, you know, if and when I get married, I will not be the father that my father was to me. And I will do everything in my power to make sure I'm not. That I will be there for my kids. I will provide for my kids. My dad didn't provide for me and my brothers at all. My dad didn't pay alimony. My dad didn't pay child support. We were latchkey kids before there was the term latchkey kids. Okay. All these things that you heard about in the 70s and the 80s and 90s of all these different terms. Me and my brothers were those in the 60s. Okay. My mom never remarried. My wife and I actually were talking this morning on the way down to the temple, that I asked her, I said, how many houses did you living growing up to the time, and counting since we've been married. And I think hers is 12. Mine is like 19 or 20. And most of those were pre-Kayleen.
Yeah.
So my 8 years in LA, I lived in San Francisco for 4 years. And then I moved to Chico when I was 12 and a half and lived in Chico till I was 33, I think 33, something like that. And we moved up to Red Bluff and been here ever since. So it's hard to see how you go, but to learn from, good, bad, or indifferent, we all take things from our parents.
Mm-hmm.
And we, and then I had the experience of having a couple good friends, well, 3 good friends in high school, and 2 of them.
Shout them out. Shout them out. What are their names?
Okay, Randy Allen. He was a member of the church. He was the lifer. And then Brian Smith, he joined the church between the summer of our senior year. Okay. And then I joined the church, November of 73. I graduated in 73. So November 73, I joined the church. And then John, he joined the church in 76. Yeah, 76 after the priesthood was extended out to the blacks. He joined the church. All 4 of us married in the temple. All 4 of us got families. Our kids intermingled together. Randy lives in Vegas. Brian lives in Provo, and John lives up in he's snowbound in Chester right now. But John's first wife died. He's married since again. Brian's since divorced, left the church, and Randy's still married, first wife. I'm still married, first wife.
I love that idea that almost that band of brothers.
Yeah, and to the wall.
To the wall.
Okay. But I had the opportunity to go to Rick's College as a non-member after graduating high school in 73. For those of you out there, that's BYU. Definitely dating myself there.
Yeah.
But I still got Rick's College t-shirts and sweatshirts, man.
Oh, that's vintage.
Yeah.
I've had kids that have gone there and graduated there. One of my daughters was the first graduating class of BYUI. So.
Oh, no way. That's cool, man.
So anyhow, so Randy and Brian, both members, said, "Hey, man, you need to go here." And I go, "No, dude, I'm a Catholic kid. I ain't going to a Mormon school. It ain't happening." And they go, "No, you need to go, man. We can learn to ski and do this and do that." I go, "Well, okay." And then they said, "Well, it's 4-1 girls to guys. I'm in." So I went. Didn't have the means to pay for it. So Randy's dad basically flipped the freight on it for a semester. I went for a semester.
Yeah.
Made some good friends, had a good roommate. Actually, my roommate, his girlfriend, her brother lives here in Red Bluff. Kent Stubbs. I don't know if you know him.
Okay, yeah, I went to school with his son.
Okay, well, Kent's sister was my roommate's girlfriend. So I'm small world, man. I'm just crazy. Anyhow, so went there for a semester. Had the opportunity. We had sports back then. They had football, all competed in the junior college ranks. And there was a homecoming devotional. And the prophet back then was Harold B. Lee. And so Harold B. Lee came to the church or to the campus to do the homecoming devotional. And back then they had missionaries, elders on campus. They don't anymore. They did back then.
Probably something to do with that 4-1 ratio.
It very much has something to do with that 4-1 ratio. And so they went in. The elders were given the opportunity to bring one of their investigators to the devotional and sit up on the stage with the prophet. So the two elders I was taking the lessons from and myself got to sit up on the stage. And there was actually 4 sets of elders. So it was 4 investigators that got to go up on the stage, right? And so we're there, and I'm thinking to myself, they're just blowing this thing up, man. I mean, the prophet's coming, and I'm just going, I'm Catholic, dude. If he's not the Pope, I go, no, he's better than the Pope and stuff. I'm going, okay, if you say so, whatever. And so we're there, and we're up on the stage, and the prophet comes down from the far end of the arena, comes walking down. And when he comes in, it's the first time I ever saw it. I've seen it a few times since, but I saw he walks into the arena and the place goes, you've heard the term, you could hear a dime drop. Dude, you could hear a dime drop. And then everybody started singing, "We thank thee, O God, for a prophet." And he's just walking down. He's got actually Elder Eyring was president of the college back then. Henry B. Eyring was president of the college back then. And so he's walking down with President Eyring, President Eyring's wife, a couple other people, whatever, administration and stuff like that. Not to mention probably his, bodyguards are spaced out there somewhere, or in the arena anyhow. So they come up and they make the turn on the front of the stage and go around the corner to go up the steps to the stage. As they come up on the steps of the stage and they go make the turn to go out onto the stage itself for the seating, that's where we're all standing. And we have the opportunity, the elders, the prophet comes by, the elders introduce themselves to the prophet, and then they introduce their investigator. And he shakes the investigator's hand. What came up to me, and Elder Carlson was one of them. And Elder Carlson is the one that introduced me. The prophet stuck out his hand and shook my hand and says, "Brother Boone, may you find the church to be everything you ever want and more." $1 million response. 18 years old, Catholic kid, right? My $1 million response. That was it, man. That's all I could do. And that was my aha moment as far as the church, knowing that, wow, this dude is cooler than the prophet. This prophet is cooler than the Pope.
I love that.
So I came home. So I came home at Christmas. I came home at Thanksgiving, and I got baptized. I got baptized up in Paradise at the chapel that burned down, actually, from the fire. That's where I got baptized at. So I got baptized at Thanksgiving time, went back, finished out the semester, and then I was one semester, one and done. But one of the best decisions I ever made, is to say, that was going up.
I love that line he gives you. Right?
Yeah.
May you find the church to be everything.
Everything you wanted and more.
And more. And it has been.
Dan, can I ask? I'm curious. You mentioned a few times your Catholic upbringing. Mm-hmm. Was it, as a kid, was that a big part of your life, the church and religion itself?
No, not really. I went to parochial school, Catholic school, in second grade down in SoCal. I jokingly tell people, I had Sister Mary Elephant.
Oh,
that's a Cheech and Chong.
Cheech and Chong. My dad used to have that record.
Okay,
when I was a kid.
I've had a discussion with one of my kids the other day. Said, "Man, you got to go YouTube Cheech and Chong."
Yeah.
But I says, I was the kid that had their hands on the desk and the ruler came. And I says, I had it done so many times that she had to get a second box of rulers during the year because she broke so many. But so I had that. I went to catechism, which is the equivalent of our seminary, if you will. I did that in Chico for 2 years. I was basically a holiday Catholic, Christmas, New Year's, Easter, and whenever I needed to go to confession. And be serious about trying to put myself back in shape, so to speak.
I'm curious what makes you at 18. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of things, right? You've got good friends. You're in an environment where it's 4-1, girls, boys, right? These are all pluses. But to have that mindset of a seeker, someone that's looking for something. Were you looking for something at that time? Were like when religion for you, like what did that look like at 18 years old when you're taking those discussions?
I lived in Chico, man. They had Pioneer Day still going on there. I was, quote, living the dream of an 18-year-old living in Chico, if you will. I was still in high school, and being in high school in Chico during those times, there was no difference between being a senior in high school and being at Chico State per se. So that was, wasn't a thing. But I got interested, actually started in the church by Randy and Brian, by Dance Festival. And they needed another guy for Dance Festival. I'm not going to dance. They go, no, here's what you got to do. We're going to do it around here somewhere. And then we get to go to Sacramento. And then we get to go to the Oakland Coliseum and do it there. And when I did it in 73, spring of 73, that was the first year that they had Dance Festival, but it wasn't all church anymore, because it used to go to regional, multi-regional, and then back to Salt Lake. But the church got so big, they couldn't bring everybody back into Salt Lake and do it. So we did that. So that's how I actually got involved. And in high school, I had introduced to a bunch of friends, a bunch of kids that were LDS and still friends today. The Sorensens, Tyler, you may know, both of you may know Dennis Sorensen, or known of Dennis Sorensen down in Chico.
Really familiar,
okay,
yeah.
He comes from a family of 14. He's since passed, but he has a set of sisters, twins, a year younger. He had a brother, Chan, same age. So his parents were salt of the earth parents. Anybody was welcome into their home any time of the day and night. There are many times young men, young women who just show up over there Saturday night, 11 o'clock, and hang out till 2 a.m. or something, just sitting around playing board games, talking or whatever. Yeah. I had a lot of family people in the church that I met that were instrumental in me being able to do that and go and have that opportunity to go with them and just hang at their house. I used to go quilting quilts at a girl's house with her and 2 of her sisters and another guy. And I spent many a night, early mornings, quilting.
Whatever it takes, right? Whatever it takes.
Do, huh?
And it is. It is.
You rob banks because that's where the money's at, right?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Quilt because that's where the girls are at.
And so it's just, but I've got, so I mean, my introductions and values were, developed by, a lot of people in the church, as well as by John Goolsby's dad and mom. They're non-members. They've both since passed. And they, I still think to this day that his mom and dad helped assist my mom in making ends meet financially. Never have heard anything about it. It's just a gut feeling and just being able to look back and seeing different things going, okay, type stuff. So, but he's one that just taught me some skills, construction skills when I was in high school. I used to go, they had rentals and we used to go, John and I used to go and we'd buy a rental and he was going to remodel it. So we'd go in there and get it. And we got to recycle all the copper and everything. And whatever we recycled, that's how we got paid.
Oh,
and so nice. we pull the wire out of the walls and strip it all down and take it down to a place and recycle it. Think, oh man, we're cutting a fat hog and we probably get $20 and we probably spend 100 hours doing it, stripping it all down and stuff. So we're making about 50 cents an hour, but it kept us out of trouble too. So, but yeah. He was a strong influence as well. Somebody that focused, and they weren't really religious. They didn't go to church regularly or anything, but he was one that was able to help me focus and was the father image both him and Randy's dad were father images that I didn't have. And that's helped me to develop saying, hey, that's the direction
awesome.
I want to go. That's what I want to be. That's how I want to do it. So.
And is that something you were intentionally taking note of at the time, or is that looking back, you see that now?
No, I think I maybe not immediately at the point, but when I, because I mean, I've been friends with them, 7th, 8th grade, and then all through high school and then through today. So 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, no, but probably junior, senior years where I started saying, okay, this is where what do I need to do? And when the church was introduced, needless to say, through Randy and his family, and I said, okay. And then John's family, just the marriage that him and his parents had, and the relationship that they had, and the manner in which he treated his wife, John's mom, was, she was a queen and wasn't anything but. She was never the princess. She was never the secondhand maiden. She was the queen.
Yeah.
99.99999% of the time.
I love that you mentioned that, because I don't remember a lot from my wedding day, but I remember that feeling. I remember walking into the Oakland Temple, into the celestial room, and I remember feeling like I had a queen on my arm.
Mm-hmm. And you still do.
Yeah, and that idea of
even more so. Even
nurturing
more so.
That, right? Yeah, I love that.
But behind every good woman is a man that doesn't deserve her.
Amen.
That should be our bumper sticker, buddy.
Well, I'm a bumper sticker dude, man. I got bumper sticker notes everywhere, man. In my scriptures,
I'm a bumper sticker dude married to a person. I'm a bumper sticker dude married to a person who would not be caught dead with a bumper sticker on her car.
I'm living that dream, buddy. I'm living your dream. Get that off my car.
Yeah. Hey, can we talk a little bit about where you're at in at this stage in your life, what honoring your parents looks like? How do you honor your parents today?
Wow. Gosh. I try to talk to my kids, let my kids, my oldest, my dad was killed in a car accident in 2000. He was the Ford Firestone.
Oh yeah.
Him and my stepmom unfortunately were part of that catastrophe. So
with the tire recall,
the tire and Ford, recall thing. Yeah. So they were in Arizona, Phoenix, and we're going to move back to the LA area. I don't know why. And they were going back to sign paperwork on a condo they were getting.
Oh, wow.
And it was when it happened, about 20 miles out of Phoenix. So, so my older kids had a little bit of time. The later years, my dad finally, when he became sober and married his third wife, kind of figured out what it was about, so to speak, I think. And I think it was more because of Sally, his third wife, than anything on his own, which is fine. I'll take it. And at that point, he started getting more into my life, and the kids' life, his grandkids' life. So I think, my older kids can tell a couple stories about Grandpa. They can tell thousands of stories about Kayleen's mom and dad, because, we went out to Utah every summer, out to their place, blah, 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 blah. We built a granny house here in the back. They lived in it for years. They both lived there. My father-in-law passed first, and then my mother-in-law passed, and they lived in that till they passed. So my kids Grandma and Grandpa were here all the time. So they, so that side of it there. My mom, my kids, two of my daughters, my two oldest daughters, Tanya and Patrice, lived with Grandma for a little while. My mom in Chico. So they were able to develop a relationship I look at my oldest daughter, and it's scary because all I see is my mom.
Mhm.
I'm just image wise. Kayleen says a little bit, but it's mirror to me. It's scary. So being able to take those times and view those stories and spend time with them and understand. My kids remember Grandma Boone a lot more than Grandpa Boone. And my mom's buried in Chico at the cemetery across from McDonald's. And so my kids, whenever I got a daughter in Sacramento, and my kids up here, they'll go over whoever's around. They're always there's fresh flowers on my mom, and then my brother's buried there as well. And they're like 4 plots away from each other. So we were able to get my mom real close to my brother when it happened. So there's always fresh flowers. One of the kids is always putting flowers on those graves. Very seldom is there not, and fresh flowers that are, and they might be, 3 weeks old or something. They're not fresh anymore, but there's always something that's been putting out there on a regular basis scenario. So they got those relationships. So I think that's something that we work on, just being able to do it. We have the opportunities to just, when we have the gatherings, the Thanksgiving, the Christmas, or whatever, you always get, there's always a Grandma Boone story, or I remember Grandpa, type thing. But, more my mom than my dad, because my dad was, down in LA and stuff. But the older ones know, and I think it's just something I kind of try and do it. And for the younger kids to relate those stories to them so that they can know who Grandpa and Grandma were. And they know Grandpa was a drunk. They know that he cheated on my mom. They know he cheated on his second wife. And they know he got sober with his third wife. So, I mean, it's not anything that's been held back or whatever. It's all information that's out there in the open, and they can, chew it up, spit it out, and move on. Or they could say, okay, cool, I'm glad I know it. It is what it is and stuff. So so I think just, just little things that you can do periodically and stuff,
Can I leave the script and ask a question we've never asked a guest?
Oh no.
Dan, when you're gone, what do you hope they're talking about?
Probably a couple things. I was willing to help those that needed help. I was willing to serve whenever called upon.
That's the Dan I know.
Amen. Amen.
And probably even more so is that my word and my handshake are my bond. You don't need a stinking contract.
I love that, man.
I've been burned by it. My wife, but it's still, for me, it's a solid.
It's enough.
But it's, I think those would be probably the three.
Can you imagine a world where that was the law?
Well, it used to be, man.
It used to be.
Our parents and our grandparents, man, that's what it was. I mean, we got stories. Speaking of my wife's parents, he tells stories. My father-in-law told stories of him and his brothers. He came from a family of 13, 14. And they were in Kanash, Utah, which is a small town in central Utah. It's 2 hours, hour and a half south of Provo, hour and a half, 45 north of St. George.
Okay.
Heard of Fillmore, Utah? It's close to Fillmore. It's
okay.
15 minutes from Fillmore, 15 minutes from Fillmore. A trivia piece of information for you on Kanash. It is the longest standing ward in the church that has never been divided. And the ward was established in the 1870s. And it's never been divided. There's only one Kanash ward. There's not Kanash 1 and 2 or Sunflower and blah, blah, blah. No.
So is that, Dan, does that speak to the desirability of the area of Kanash? I mean, it doesn't sound like people are flooding in.
Or their love for change.
Yeah.
You go
is
there.
It one ward with 2,500 people? I mean, in Sacrament meeting.
You go to Sacrament meeting. There's probably 350, 400 people. It's packed. It's all the way back to the roll up door of the kitchen, man. No, it's slammed.
Okay.
They've got 12 deacons or priesthood that pass. One of them that passes, or two of them are the ones that have the special cups for people that like ungluten bread and the different scenarios, the cracker, and they take those trays around to those particular people.
Wow.
I mean,
do they make them sit in one section? That would be so much easier. But today, we can't get away with that, can we? We got the gluten-free bench over here.
But it's you go there, you're dropping back.
That's awesome, man.
You know, it's 70s, 80s maybe, but they got what they call a mercantile there. But,
I hope I didn't alienate all of our Kanosh, Utah listeners.
They probably don't even know who you guys are.
You can say that about most places.
But I'll try and spread the word though.
Okay, thanks, man.
But I don't know if I answered the question.
Right about when I was feeling we were big time.
Yeah, and then we figured out Kanosh doesn't like us, doesn't know us,
doesn't know who we are.
Yeah.
Well, I can make that happen though.
All right.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, I think it's that's a sobering thought. Right. I mean, it's a sobering thought to think about us not around, but last time I checked, we're all checking out at some point. And I think it's important to begin with that end in mind and live the kind of life and live those stories.
It is. It's something that's not it's going to happen. It's, it is what it is.
But you know what? We've talked a lot on this show about legacy and that idea of legacy and what we're leaving behind and what does that look like? I think I love the idea that it's, you talked in the beginning of the episode, just kind of that desire or the outreach that you have with your youth with your kids to kind of try to grow those relationships, strengthen relationships. Mm-hmm. I think legacy is an ongoing thing, right? I mean, that's something that we're always trying to build. And, I love, and look, the reality is for better or worse, Dan, this show is on the internet and it'll be out there forever. Right. So
perfect.
Just like YouTube videos of Cheech and Chong.
Yeah, there you go, man.
Mary Elephant. What did you do on your summer vacation?
Yeah. And we'll leave it at that. Cause I do the hippy dippy weatherman for a while. So.
But the great thing is, you talk about visiting your grandkids, and your daughter's about ready to have a grandbaby. This recording is going to be around, and those grandkids are going to be able to hear about Dan Boone's life and what that was like. And I think that's an important thing, Well,
let's get into the most important thing. Can we get the story of how you met your wife on record for time and all eternity?
Oh gosh.
So you last left you left us at Rick's college.
One semester.
Okay. Yes. I went to Rick's for a semester.
Yeah.
And then my dad was on his third wife at that time. So I ended up going to LA, lived in Hollywood in North Hollywood with my dad and his then wife, Sally. And I lived there for January, February, March, April, May, 5 months. And I went to school for a semester at Los Angeles Community College, which it was 35,000 kids. And in the heart of LA.
A little different than Rick's.
Oh,
yeah.
A total 180.
Right.
85% Black, 5% Hispanic, or 5% Oriental, and 5% white. Total culture shock, man. I mean, from going to Rick's.
Yeah.
But I developed a very good understanding and rapport that of treating everybody equal per se, and that not being one that's and not that I was beforehand, but I think the biggest thing that at Rick's that I felt as far as being shunned, if you will, was going and asking a girl out And she says, well, where are you from? And you'd say California. And she says, oh yeah, great. Or she says, oh no, I can't date Californians. My parents told me I can't date Californians. So, and
my parents sent me to college, and my one instruction was don't date Californians.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody thinks, you guys know this, everybody outside of California thinks we all live on the beach and we all surf.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
one of the three of us does. But hey.
Yeah.
But so I lived there for 5 months or so, and then I went back to ended up back up in Chico, and that was pretty much the done time of my scholastic career. 19 years old, I don't need college. I'm gonna go to work. So I jobbed around a little bit and stuff, and was working at Enloe Hospital as a groundskeeper, and I went to church. And there's two different stories on this. This is my story. My wife's a different story. I went to church, and I saw this girl in church, and I went up to her and I said, hi, how are you? And blah, blah, blah. And asked her if it was on a Sunday, and asked her if she'd like to go out and go do something on a Sunday and, go to a Chico Peppers game or something. And it was Sunday, and she said no. And she had a boyfriend that was on a mission. I didn't know this at the time. And so I got shut down. But she was home. Actually, the reason she was home is because her dad had a heart attack. And so she was home on a special, leave is from school, so to speak, that, with dad and stuff. So then she went back to school and then finished out her semester, whatever came out. And that summer, we just I just stayed persistent, and she finally basically gave in, if you will. I wore her out. And her boyfriend on the mission, she sent him a Dear Bill letter.
You're one of those.
I am one of those, dude.
Hey, you know what? There's nothing more romantic than the old I wore her down story. You know what I mean?
And so anyhow, but it's it's been it hasn't been 46 years.
46, man.
October. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it hasn't been, a bowl of cherries, but it hasn't been a bowl of pits either. But you got to realize, if you got a bowl of cherries, you're going to end up with some pits unless somebody went and cleaned those cherries up for you.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because those pits are going to do a couple different things. They're terrible if you're making cherry pie and it ends up in the pie. And guarantee you that if I'm pitting the cherries and we're making a pie out of it, I get the pits. It never fails. But the other thing is, you can throw those pits away and move on.
Yeah.
And if you want to go even one step further, you can take those pits, plant them, harvest them, and bring that much more fruit into your life. So where do you want to go with it? What scenarios do you want to work with it? So, and you still have the original cherries that you got to eat. So, but I have no regrets on anything. Is there things I'd do a little bit different or something? Sure. Who wouldn't?
Dan, I'm sitting at 25 years in February. And
you better do something. That's like silver or something.
Oh, all right. My wife better not listen to this episode, right? Because we were going to go to Applebee's.
Fancy life.
That's right.
Hey, dude, at 25 and I don't know, at 25 years, and I'd have to go back and figure it out on the calculator and how many kids I had. I wasn't even able to do Applebee's. It was like Bud's Jolly Cone, right?
Well, what advice do you have for me and for Mike on getting?
I got a double time because I'm 23. I think 23 years. I got to catch up.
One of the things I saw in the questions here is the dream thing. Don't give up on your dreams, but make the dreams where where they're accessible. Don't go where it's going to be somewhere. And I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know here, but don't let that dream take you away from your family either. And at 25 and 23 years, man, what better dream to have than make your wife be part of that dream? Whether it's serving a mission in Sweden, or Switzerland, or in Hawaii, or wherever, but whatever it may be, let that dream, let your wife be part of that dream. Don't leave your family behind. Take whatever needs to happen. We've had
no empty chairs, right?
Yeah, and I've got a bunch of kids that are inactive, and so it's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow. I'm an ordinance worker in Sacramento Temple every Wednesday morning. It's, I feel it every Wednesday. It's right there, right between the eyes. But I spoke to somebody today at Temple and talked about for a second, and they just said, hey, he put his arm around me and gave me a hug. He says, Dan, he says, know that, it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
And so it's just something that you got to continually strive to do and make happen, so, and I don't know if can I tell you one more story?
Yeah, please.
On a serious note?
Yeah.
It's not that the others weren't on serious notes, but we talked last night just for a second. I told you about my heart just for a second.
Yeah.
And I am in 06, right? That's when the Sacramento Temple, right, was dedicated.
Mm-hmm.
06? That sound right, Tyler?
That sounds right, yeah.
Okay. Well, Mike should know too. After all, he's in the stake presidency.
Any monkey can be in the stake presidency.
Oh, no.
That's Mike and I's motto.
I gotta let everybody know out there. People probably know, they do know or they don't know, but we're zooming this as we're talking and doing this, and it'll be a podcast later. But Tyler and I are just two handsome guys sitting here with our glasses on and enjoying each other's company. And then we got this guy in a t-shirt, sweatshirt, hoodie thing with a San Diego Padres hat on. I just had to throw that in there, Mike.
That's right. I know. Well, truer words were never spoken about the two handsome guys. I agree with that, Dan, 100%.
So anyhow, let's go back. So anyhow, in 06, we had the temple dedication, and we had the big youth celebration was part of it. And so the week after at work, I had to go get a respirator fit test for my work, and I had to do that every 2 years. So it came up. So the week after it happened, I went in and did it and found out, went through the whole thing and passed it all, except I had to wait for the doctor to come and listen to my heart. So he listened to my heart, said I had a murmur, heart murmur. 3 months earlier, I had a complete physical and the heart murmur wasn't there. So I go, oh, crud, man. So I had the physical done, the fit test done down in Yuba City. So I came back up to Red Bluff, came to my doctor, went straight to my doctor and said, hey, I said, I got a heart murmur. Walked in, stuck the stethoscope on and says, yeah, you do. Says, we need to get this looked at. I said, okay. So they set up for a stress test. I get all the terms done, but were they going EKG, not EKG?
Yeah, the EKG, yeah.
No, that's the tape, isn't it? What's the one where they go and look at your heart?
Yeah.
Echo thing or whatever.
Yeah,
okay.
Right.
So they did that on my heart, and then the stress test was to happen afterwards. And I did that, got that scheduled the following week down in Chico, and went in there, and they did the echo thing, and they get done. The lady gets done. She goes, I'll be right back. I got to go get the doctor. And I'm going, well, what about the stress test? She says, you're not having a stress test. Oh, crap. I goes, what's going on? She goes, I'll get the doctor for you. He'll tell you what's going on. I go, well, wait a minute. I can't remember her name. We'll just say Mary for a conversation. Said, come on, Mary, man. You worked with my mom. Come on, you know me. What's going on? She goes, well, you got aortic stenosis and you're going to have heart surgery. And I go, oh, crap. And Kayleen was out in the lobby. So I said, can you get my wife? And she says, you bet. So Kayleen comes in and walks in the room, looks at me, says, you're having heart surgery, aren't you? I hadn't talked to the lady or nothing. Yeah, she goes, I knew it. I just felt it. So the doctor comes in, Cardiologist comes in. Okay, let's this is it. We'll get you scheduled for a catheter thing where they go up and check my heart out, right? And they did down the cardiac catheter lab at Enloe. And they went in and did it. He went out, and beforehand, I talked to Kaylee, and he says, well, let's just do it as soon as we can or whatever. So one of my daughters was there with Kaylee. The doctor came out, got done with me, and as he was walking out the door to go see my wife, daughter, one of the heart surgeons was there. And he said to the heart surgeon, he says, hey, I got a guy sitting in the cath lab right now that needs to have, it has a stenosis, and it's got 90% blockage on it. He's shutting down. He needs surgery, he says. And the heart doctor says, well, I got a cancellation, just had a cancellation half hour ago, whatever, for 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. So they walk out, the two of them walk out, and see my wife and my daughter, and say, okay, here's what's going on, da, da, da. We can get them in at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Book them, Dano. So they take me upstairs and prep me and do all the stuff. So next morning, do the heart surgery. $1 million, man. Take me down, do the surgery. I wake up, I don't know, 2:30-ish in the afternoon, sore, needless to say, from cracking your chest open. 5:30, I have a pork chop, mashed potatoes, green beans, a piece of bread, a slice of pie, and a glass of milk. 6:15, they have me walk in the halls. Okay? I'm going, wow, this is cool. I mean, and I actually feel better. I can feel the blood.
Really?
Because my legs and arms slowly were going numb. But it was happening so slow, you didn't feel it. But now with the blood flowing the way it was, I felt it. So Friday morning, 11 o'clock, they came check me out of the hospital. This was a Wednesday. Friday morning, I checked out 11 o'clock, and I was sitting here in the house in my easy chair at straight up 12 o'clock noon. Friday at noon, here at the house. Next morning, Kayleen goes, and I slept on the chair, the recliner, because I couldn't hike the stairs or any of that stuff. You know, we have a 2-story house, so I had to stay downstairs. So I just slept in the recliner. Kayleen fixed some French toast. I had a piece of French toast for breakfast. 8 o'clock, 8:15, and she went upstairs to go get some clothes for me so I could get dressed and stuff, because some people were going to come by, the bishop and a couple other people. So I was going to put on some clothes instead of be sitting in pajamas. I started feeling sick, and so I was able to get up, and I went into the kitchen and went over the sink and puked up the French toast. And the next thing I know, I'm passing out. To make a long story short, I ended up having what they call a 3rd-degree block. And so that's where your heart, because your heart's just a magnet, and a muscle. And so the electricity part of it, it's not operating. So it's not filling the chamber. It's not emptying and filling the chamber in the right order. So what happens is you end up having seizures and going to cardiac arrest.
Oh my gosh.
So I had over the next, that's 8:15-ish till 1 o'clock-ish, I had 3 full-blown seizures and 5 cardiac arrests.
Oh my gosh.
There are no statistics on me being here sitting with you guys today talking about it. Statistically,
How long ago was that?
this was in 06.
06.
15 years ago. I had, between the 5 cardiac arrests, I had 4 of them at St. E's, and then they transferred me down to Chico, and I had 1 in Chico on the operating table in Chico when they cracked me back open, because the heart surgeon thought what happened is I blew a stitch, and there's what he thought happened on my heart. What they do normally, what happens is when you have a valve replacement, they leave you open 15, 20 minutes, because if you're going to go into this 3rd-degree block, it happens then. And then they just go put a pacemaker on in you while you're there and everything. They've got you open and put a pacemaker in, and life is good. So anyhow, I lived through it, needless to say. But I was, between the 5 seizures, I was flatlined, documented for over an hour between all 5. So statistically, I'm not supposed to be here. But where I wanted to go with this was, you're talking about blessings and opportunities and stuff. Every day is an extra day for me, literally. So if my number comes up tomorrow, I got 15 more years than I shouldn't have, period. But I'm not planning on going tomorrow. So I've had a second valve done, and I'm on my second valve and on the second pacemaker. But the thing that the most powerful lesson of the whole thing was when this happened initially, and you guys know how the phone tree works in the church and all this stuff. And I was on the high council then. This thing just got exploded, man. Everybody calling everybody and everything. So the stake had an immediate fast for me. Well, the son I was telling you about, who has the wife that drives by here all the time, her parents go to church here in Red Bluff, to one of the big churches here in town that's not one of the big supporters, I guess, of the LDS church. Excuse me. And so this church, Ashley's parents got on the phone. Their church had a fast for me.
Wow.
And then there was another church in town that had a fast for me.
Wow.
I wake up at the hospital, everything, I'm groggy, blah, blah, blah. Later on, I find out that this all happened, okay, after the fact. So I'm speaking after this on a high council talk up in Anderson, and I get done talking, and this lady in the ward comes up to me and says, "Brother Boone, I know exactly what you're talking about, because my talk was about how we in the church are taught that service is the fabric of this gospel, and that everybody is a son and a daughter of our Savior Jesus Christ. And there are no exceptions, regardless of what their position in this life is. And we in the church are developed, grown, have the habits, whatever, to give service whenever, whatever, to whomever. But we are not taught in the church how to be the recipient of said service. And I kind of knew that before, but when it was a 3-church fast, people within the communities, blah, 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 all did this. It was just a total blow away, knock me over with a feather moment. And it's something that I got from that I, to this day, it's still just totally mind-boggling that it even happened. But being able to be the recipient of something like that, and how do you go and tell all these people thank you? It's just you can't. I mean, you just look through them. You're if you see my glasses, they aren't rose colored, but when I look through them, they're rose colored.
Yeah.
So that's probably my biggest single aha moment. That is, unfortunately, it was only 15 years ago and not 45 years ago per se, but I'm in a position where I've been greatly blessed. I'm able to function. I'm able to do things that I want to do. I'm able to still see my kids. I can go see my grandkids wherever they live, back east, up in Idaho, Utah, wherever. So it's a big thing that you're able to know when you've been touched by the power of those around you. If there's a thing I'd like to leave with the listeners, that's trust me when I say there are many, many people out there that touch your lives that you have no idea about, and that you'll never be able to thank. But because of it, you and I are better people. So
when I think of that experience, I recently listened to something, and it was like, how do you say thank you to somebody who saves your life? And the person responded and said, you can't. You just remember.
Yeah.
And you retain in remembrance.
Yeah. And that's all you can do. And you share the moment with people. And when somebody's down and out or whatever, we're teaching, my wife and I are not teaching, but we're facilitators for the emotional resilience class. We're on the second group of people in our ward that we're doing it with. We do it on Tuesday nights. And last night we were on lesson 9, and that's the one where you talk about not making those subtle, arbitrary comments like, "Oh yeah, I know what you're feeling," or these comments that just they're just generic
filler.
Garbage. Garbage.
Yeah.
They're not sincere. It's just, you don't know what to say, so this is what you're going to say.
Yeah.
And we talked about this last night. It's something that you're able to go. And our bishop's in our class right now. And I looked at him and I told him, I says, "Hey," I said, "Man," I says, "if there's anything that you get out of this class for the 10 weeks that we've been in it, or we will be in it," I says, it's the empathy for those that you're serving in the Lord." And I mean, Mike, you get somewhat at the stake level, not to the level of a bishop, but you've been a bishop before, so you know what I'm talking about. I don't know if you have, Tyler, or not, but it's something that you just, but wherever we're serving at, we need to be able to have that one-on-one, and that just, man, take them under your wing, give them a hug. You don't know what they're living or where they're going and what direction they're heading.
I feel like, Dan, I've known you for a while, and I've always felt like you were the kind of person that connected with people, that just when people talk to you, they liked being around you. And I can tell you from my experience, I loved being around you when we got to serve around each other. But has that experience deepened that for you? That ability to connect and to do you look at people differently after going through your own experience there?
I think I do, to a degree. I think I'm only human. So there comes times where I go, I go off to the right or left, and all of a sudden I got to bring myself back into the middle and say, "Hey, wait a minute, man."
Yeah.
That's not, that's not where you're supposed to be. That's not what you're supposed to do. And I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm sure there's going to be somebody that listens to this that knows me and says, "He's nothing like that," or whatever. Well, that's here and there. I mean, it's, we're all only as, if you will, as good as our last comment, our last visit, our last whatever. That's why we need to work on making sure it's the last, working at this may be the last. So I need to make sure I'm not leaving them on a down note and on a positive side to whomever, whatever. So,
man, I Mike, I just listened to that story, and I hear about different congregations, fasting and praying for Dan Boone. And I immediately am like, is this like the ultimate richest men in town, story? I mean,
a lot of prayers for George Bailey.
A lot of prayers, man.
I know what fasting does on an individual basis, right? In my own life, and the power that is generated from my humble fast. And I've felt experiences with ward fasts. I've even felt experiences for steak fasts, and our prophet has called for worldwide days of fast. But a community of faith fasting. We should not be blown away, Brother Boone, that you're sitting on 15 extra years.
No, right? Realistically,
no. Because that's a lot of power. And
I truly believe that I'm here for a reason.
Yeah.
Amen.
I can't give you what the reason is. Maybe part of the reason is to be here when my 24th grandchild is born in the next 2 weeks. Maybe it's something else. I don't know, but
well, we're grateful
that
we're grateful that you're including Richest Men in Town and Time Tonight as part of that. I just want to share for folks wondering what it looks like to serve. Like, I'm not a good, somebody maybe doesn't feel charitable or doesn't feel like they're going to have the right words, or they're going to feel like they're going to give rubbish instead of what the person needs to hear. I just want to share this story from the life of Henry B. Eyring. And as Dan, as you were sharing this one came to mind, right? Once Henry B. Eyring shares this. Once I was at the hospital bedside of my father as he seemed near death. I heard a commotion among the nurses in the hallway. Suddenly, Prophet, president of the church, Spencer W. Kimball, walked into the room and sat in a chair on the opposite side of the bed from me. I thought to myself, now here is my chance to watch and listen to a master at going to those in pain and suffering. President Kimball said a few words of greeting, asked my father if he had received a priesthood blessing. And then when Dad said that he had, the prophet sat back in his chair. I waited for a demonstration of the comforting skills I felt I lacked and so much needed. After perhaps 5 minutes of watching the two of them simply smiling silently at each other, I saw President Kimball rise and say, Henry, I think I'll go before we tire you. I thought I'd missed the lesson, but it came later. In a quiet moment with Dad after he recovered, our conversation turned to that visit. Dad said quietly, of all the visits I had, that visit I had from him lifted my spirits the most. Right? It's not about the words.
No,
it's about, I love what you said, whatever, whenever, wherever, right? We're all children of God, and it's just about being there. It's about showing up, right? That experience popped into my mind as I heard you talking about what it means to serve, right? And the power that, man, and when that happens in our lives, when we're served, each of us can go around and share moments where someone served us, changes everything.
Yep.
Hinge moments.
Dan, what gives you hope these days?
I think just knowing that I have the fullness of the gospel in my life, that I have the opportunities to assist where I do. I've been fortunate enough to, in my line of work, to learn a lot of skills. So I've been fortunate enough to go and give service to a lot of people in different aspects. And we've built 3 homes, so, you're doing turnkey, equity on those. So all these different things are things that have helped us, as a family. But being able to teach some of these skills to my kids, that they're able to go out and use them within their homes, that they're able to give the service. I think it's important that we're able to do that we're able to go and help our neighbor and not be the judgmental person that society is so much sees out there as the big issue. I think we touched base earlier about, gosh, if only we, knew then what we know now, how much better we could be. And I think that's probably one of the biggest doggone it type moments that I wish gosh, if I only knew when I was 30 or when I was 25 starting my family that I know now at 65. Gosh, how much better things might have been. But I can't go back and look at the old adage, it's water under the bridge. It is water under the bridge, but that bridge continually gets water fed into it. So I need to do what I can to make sure that water's filtered, clean, continues to run, is doing the things that it's meant to do as it goes downstream. And so,
well, I can tell you as a 46-year-old man hanging out with you, plant your pits.
Yeah, man.
That's all I need. Right? I've heard when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. But taking that bowl of cherries and planting those pits, I think that's
all you got to do. Just got to remember, man, cherry trees like plum trees are nothing but a mess if you don't harvest them correctly. So and I had a plum tree in the backyard that was nothing but a mess, and now it's just a big old stump.
Well, hey, can I before we close you out with our signature closing question, I'd like to try a new one on you.
Okay.
Can you share with us a memory of a moment in your life when you felt truly rich? We started talking about what the game of golf has given you. Can you share with us a moment, paint us a picture of a moment in your life when you felt rich?
I think that's pretty easy for me. I think every morning when I wake up, I got arthritis in my hands. I got a bum knee. I got a shoulder that's got a, what do you call it? Tommy John thing going on. But, all those things are irrelevant compared to the blessings that I receive every day. The opportunities to serve, to be a dad, be a grandpa, and most importantly, to be a husband. There's no greater blessings. And that's, it's taken me a few years to understand that I am a wealthy man in those regards. And so, as you said before, it's, the program's not about the monetary richness. And nothing better, nothing stronger than if you have spiritual richness in your life, will you prosper more.
I love it, man.
Well, I got to ask though. I got to ask the question. It might be the same answer, right? But you get a couple of invitations from some folks in your past to jump on a podcast called The Richest Men in Town. For you, Dan, what does it mean for you to be considered the richest man in town?
I said it earlier. I said, you guys doing this, I hope your show doesn't flop because of me. And then I one of the things that one of the questions that you guys had that came up here was, on the stuff, prelim stuff, was, what are you afraid of? And I put snakes.
Hey, me too.
Okay. and then I put ha ha. But then I put my sincere answers, not being able to help others as I've been asked and called to do. Again, there's just so much can be done by service and assisting. And it can be as subtle as answering a phone call, or it can be as monumental as changing a transmission, which I have no idea how to do, but I do know people who know how to do it, so I can make that ball roll. So I think it's,
Dan, I think you make,
I love it.
I think you make a lot of balls roll. And honestly, I think that the reason why a community rallies around you is because of the lives that you've touched. Right? And that service, the lesson that we get from service is whatever you throw out, whatever you give, that's what comes back. It's the love you give. It's not the things you get. It's the love you give. That's what comes back.
Hey, Mike, can I say, years ago,
oh no,
I got a chance to serve next to Dan Boone. And I will tell you this right now. One of the when I go about serving others, and I go about putting together things for people, one of the memories I have is just how Dan approached things. Every time I was around Dan, he lightened my load, whether that was just by making me laugh or by, obviously he was putting his hands out there and helping out, but Dan always lightened the load. And I can tell you, Dan, I haven't seen you for a lot of years, and getting together the other night and tonight is good for my soul. And I'm grateful. You are a study in a rich life, and I'm glad to know you. I'm glad to call you my friend, for one, and I'm glad to learn from your life. So I appreciate you, my friend.
Tyler, how great would it be, Tyler, 10, 15 years down the road, we're knocking something out at a stake level, or we're helping out, and it's about the youth, and it's about people, and it's about making a difference, and maybe somebody says, man, that Tyler Gould reminds me of Dan Boone.
One of the best compliments I could ever get, right there.
Right? That's the trophy on the wall.
That's
the trophy on the wall.
I look back, I was thinking earlier today, and actually I was thinking this evening before we got started, I was listening to last week's podcast. I was thinking about Tyler when we did youth conferences.
Oh yeah.
And the 5 state youth conferences, and in the 3 state youth conferences, us, you guys in Eureka.
Yeah.
And the service projects that we had. we had some pretty doggone good stinking service
did.
projects that we put together for those kids, and those were, there. I can remember a pretty monumental one up there in Eureka out on the beach, and literally moving tons of trash, tires, and it was just, and I remember that like it was yesterday, and it was colder than all get out too, man.
Yeah, I remember those days, and I remember, I can tell you, one of the things that really stands out to me is I remember the stress of putting those things together and the work that it took, and how much I loved, at the end of the night, connecting up with Dan and just laughing about some of the ridiculous things that had happened throughout the day. I mean, good time.
Just going to the dance at the end of the evening, man, and being able to physically just watch the kids out there having a good time and unwind.
That's what it's about.
I love it.
That's what it was all about.
Absolutely love it.
So.
Well, Dan, I've loved our time together. You delivered on everything that Tyler and I were expecting. We usually do. We come in with low expectations, not gonna lie. But you saw those and raised the bar unbelievably high. And honestly, I think we've talked before about this being a selfish endeavor, and I don't really care. This helped me tonight.
Amen.
And I think that's the test. I'm talking to somebody a little further down the path. I'm talking to somebody when he turns back and he's like, hey, watch this step. Hey, take care of this. Hey, take care of that. It's always good advice to listen to somebody who's been down the road you're heading. And that's what I feel like tonight has been for me. I know it's going to do that for listeners as well. So, Dan, I take my San Diego Padres hat off and tip my cap to you, brother. Thank you so much for the life you're living. And I love every day is an extra day, right? Every day is an extra day.
Bumper sticker all the way, baby.
Next time I'm up there, and I think it's we have to do a Fall River golf excursion with the three of us, right? I mean,
we got to go.
Dust those clubs off, man.
But we don't. You know what? We could do down at the Links in Corning, or we could do Woke I'm open to anywhere, dude.
All right,
we don't have to drive that far.
When I'm up there, let's make it happen.
I'm putting Dan and I in the cart, and I'm gonna
race that track and light flight me to the next stop.
True story, man. I tell you.
I love it. Hey, Dan, it's been fun. We appreciate you. We love you. Thanks for hanging with us tonight, and
no problem. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Good night.
Good night. Take care.
To my big brother George, the richest man in town.